Advantages and disadvantages, and this comes basically from the textbook and most people's ideas about what is good and bad about communism. So the good definitely is low unemployment. Everybody has a job. They always advertise that they're better than the United States because every person has a job, no matter what. So that's definitely an advantage. Great job security. The government doesn't go out of business, so you'd have a job for your entire life. You would work at the same spot, or they would tell you where to go, where to work. Equal incomes, equal no extremely poor people. And they weren't truly equal. There wasn't equal income for everybody. You had a hierarchy. You had people that worked in the government. You had athletes. You had stars. You had friends of the government. But they were basically trying to pay people as equal as possible. Free healthcare. So they had healthcare that everyone was taken care of. So basically, you were taken care of from birth to death, and you were taken care of through these things. I always look at this system. The main advantages that I see are no unemployment. Everybody has a job. You'd have an apartment. You'd have a house. You'd have a car. You'd have all those things provided for. And in the United States, a lot of things, there's no thinking. The government did all the thinking for you. You didn't have to worry about your career. You didn't have to worry about where you lived, where you worked. It was all taken care of you. Many times it was a test that they gave you a test to see where you would go and what you would work into. But I always look at this as kind of like a system that is good for people. And many people in the United States would like it because they would have a job and they would have a house, they would have a car, and they wouldn't have to think and they wouldn't have to worry about these things. So those are kind of like the goods of communism or authoritarian socialism. The bad is no incentive to work harder. You had different incentives. There was no profit incentive. There was no incentive to make more money. The incentive was on what you produced and how much you made. There was no innovation or incentive to innovate or come up with new ideas. The state had the ideas, and it was all based on the state. There was no competition. There was no other companies. There was no other things. The government just made everything. They made the oil, the cars, the houses. All of the jobs were through the government. So without competition, the quality of goods were poor. And I explained in the past video, with poor quality, people with their quotas made things at the last minute and didn't care about the quality. It was just they wanted to get the quota in. There were corrupt leaders. There were corrupt people. It was a huge bureaucracy. It was expensive. Few individual freedoms. Whether that's yay or nay, because right now China is a communist society that has a capitalistic economy, so they don't have freedoms to religion. They don't have freedom of speech, but they have the freedom to make $1 billion. So we're seeing some differences with the old communism coming in, but in general, most of these systems didn't have individual freedoms. They didn't have freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Whether that affected the system or not, or in the working, it's unseen, but this is definitely true on this. So these are the pros and cons, the good or bad, about communism or authoritarian socialism, as I like to call it.